Hi, I'm Sarah. I live with my wonderful husband, John, and our sweet son, Michael. John and I have been married for 10 years, and we're truly blessed. We have a lovely home and a beautiful garden. John is a great dad and husband. 6 months ago, we welcomed Alex into our lives. Alex works for us and helps keep our house and garden in tip-top shape. He's also a great help with Michael. He's kind, quiet, and always has a smile on his face. At first, I didn't think much of it. He was just there to help us. But one evening I came home late from work. John wasn't home. He was still working. Michael was asleep, and Alex was sitting in the kitchen reading a book. I sat with him and we talked. He told me about his life. He is from another city and came here for work. He has no family here and lives alone. We talked for a long time that night. After that, things started to change. One night, John had to go on a business trip and was away. For 3 days, it was just me, Michael, and Alex. On the first night, we had dinner together. After Michael went to bed, I sat with Alex again. We talked like before, and we laughed. He made me feel good, and I liked talking to him. Then something happened. I kissed him. It was just a small kiss, but it felt big. I pulled away, and I told him it was a mistake. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I felt so bad. I kept thinking about what I had done. I kept thinking about John. What had I done? I love John. I still do, but something was different now. I had kissed Alex, and I couldn't take it back. I promised myself it would never happen again. I couldn't stop thinking about John. I loved Jan, and I still do, but something felt different now. I had kissed Alex, and I couldn't take it back. I told myself it would never happen again. I promised myself it was just one mistake. But a few days later, it happened again. John was still away, and I was alone with Alex. This time we kissed for a long time. It wasn't just a small kiss. It was real, and I didn't stop it. Now I didn't know what to do. I knew what I had to do. I was scared though. I had a secret and it was big. I didn't want to tell John. I knew he'd be so angry. I just didn't think he'd ever forgive me. But I didn't know how to stop what was happening with Alex. Every time I saw him, I felt something strong. It was like a fire inside me. I couldn't control it. Days passed, and everything seemed normal. John didn't know anything. He came home from his trip, and life went on as usual. I cooked dinner. We watched TV, played with Michael, but inside I felt different. I was keeping a secret and it was a big one. I couldn't tell anyone. Alex still worked for us, and he was great with Michael. He was always polite to John when we were all together. Everything looked normal, but when John wasn't around, things were different. Alex and I would look at each other, and we didn't talk about what happened, but we both knew. I felt guilty all the time when I kissed John, and it made me think about Alex. When I was with Michael, I thought about the secret. It was always there in my mind, and it was getting bigger every day. I couldn't sleep at night. I stayed awake thinking about my mistake. I thought about telling John. I wanted to tell him, but I was scared. What would he say? What would he do? I didn't want to lose him. I didn't want to hurt him. But I had already hurt him, even if he didn't know. One night, I was lying in bed next to John. He was sleeping, and I looked at him and felt so sad. He didn't know what I had done. He trusted me, he loved me, and I had broken that trust. I wanted to cry, but I didn't. I just lay there thinking about my mistake. A few weeks later, something changed. I found out that John was also hiding something from me. He had been seeing someone else. I didn't know who she was, but I knew he was meeting her. I saw messages on his phone. They were from a woman. At first I was angry. How could he do this to me? I was his wife. But then I realized I had done the same thing. I was no better than him. We were both living a lie. Now everything was even more complicated. We were both keeping secrets. I didn't know what to do. Should I tell him about Alex? Should I ask him about the woman? Or should we both keep quiet and pretend everything was fine? That night I made a decision. I couldn't live like this anymore. I couldn't keep the secret. It was too heavy. I had to tell John the truth, even if it hurt him, even if it ended our marriage. I couldn't lie anymore. I sat down with him after dinner. Michael was asleep. Alex had gone home for the night. I looked at John and took a deep breath. John, I need to tell you something, I said. My voice was shaking. He looked at me confused. What is it? He asked. I asked. I've been seeing someone. I couldn't look him in the eye. There was silence. Then he spoke. He told me everything. He told me about Alex. He told me about the kiss. He told me about the nights when he was away. I told him I was sorry. I told him I loved him. I cried. I waited for him to say something. John didn't say anything at first. He just sat there looking at me. I didn't know what he was thinking. I was afraid he would yell, but he didn't. Finally he spoke. I've been seeing someone too, he said. Now it was my turn to be silent. I didn't know what to say. It started a few months ago. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did, he said. I'm sorry. We both sat there, not knowing what to do. We had both made mistakes. We had both hurt each other. But now everything was out in the open. There were no secrets. We decided to really talk. We talked about our marriage, about our mistakes, and about what we wanted. It wasn't easy, but we both agreed that we still loved each other. We didn't want to end our marriage. We wanted to try and fix it. The next day we made some changes. We let Alex go. It wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do. We also decided to go to marriage counseling. We knew it would take time, but we wanted to make things the months that followed were a time of gradual improvement. John and I worked on our marriage, spending more time together, talking more, and being honest with each other. While it wasn't perfect, it was better after Alex left. It felt strange at first, with the house feeling quiet and Michael missing Alex. I told him that Alex had found another job, which wasn't a complete lie, but not the whole truth either. That was the hardest part of all this. John and I went to counseling once a week to try to keep the truth from our son. It was hard at first. We had to talk about our mistakes, our feelings, and why we both did what we did. The counselor asked us questions that made me think about things I didn't want to think about. For example, she asked me, "Why did you kiss Alex?" I didn't know how to answer. I loved John, but I still kissed Alex. Why did I do it? I told the counselor that I felt. John was always working, and he was always busy. I felt like we were living separate lives. Alex made me feel seen and made me feel special. John looked hurt when I said that, but it was the truth. We both needed to hear the truth, and trust is a hard thing to rebuild. After I told John about Alex, he didn't trust me the same way. He didn't say it out loud, but I could feel it. If I came home late, he would ask where I had been. I was on my phone, and he would look at me differently. I totally understood. I didn't trust him completely either, not after learning about the other woman. The counselor told us that trust takes time. She was right. We had to be patient. I wanted things to go back to normal, but I knew it would take time. Every day I worked hard to show John that I was sorry, that I loved him, and that I wanted to make things right. John did the same. He started coming home earlier, which was great. From work, we had dinner together as a family more often. We spent weekends doing things together, like going to the park with Michael, or watching movies at home. It wasn't easy, but we were trying. One day, I asked John about the woman he had been seeing. I hadn't asked before because I was afraid of what he might say, but now I needed to know who she was. I asked him one night after Michael went to bed. Jan looked uncomfortable. He didn't want to talk about it. I needed to hear the truth. Her name is Lisa. He said she works at my office. I felt a pain in my chest when he said her name. I didn't want to know anymore, but I had to ask. Do you still see her? John said quickly. It ended before you told me about Alex. That made me feel a little better, but it still hurt. JN had been seeing someone else, while I was at home taking care of Michael. I thought everything was fine. It wasn't. I guess I did the same thing. We sat in silence for a while. Then Jan spoke again. I'm sorry, Sarah. I made a mistake. I love you. I don't want to lose you. I love you too, he said, and I meant it. We both made mistakes, but we both wanted to fix things. Months passed and things slowly improved. John and I started to trust each other again. We talked more, spent more time together, and made sure we didn't hide anything. We also made new rules for our relationship. If something was bothering us, we had to talk about it right away. No more secrets, no more hiding. It was hard at first, but it made things better. Michael was happier too. He didn't ask about Alex anymore. He was just happy to have both of his parents spending time with him. We played games, went to the zoo, and had fun together as a family. It felt good to be together again, but there were still hard days. Some days I would think about Alex and feel guilty. Sometimes I'd think about Alex and feel a little guilty. I'd wonder if John thought about Lisa, but we didn't dwell on those thoughts for long. We quickly pushed them away and focused on the future. 1 year after everything happened, John and I took a trip together, just the two of us. Michael stayed with my sister and John, and I went to a small beach town for a weekend. It was the first time we'd been alone together in a long time, and it was really good for us. We walked on the beach, had dinner at nice restaurants, and talked about our future. We both agreed that we wanted to stay together and make our marriage work. On the last night of the trip, John surprised me with something he pulled out of his pocket. Inside was a new wedding ring. He said it was a new ring for a new start. I was so happy I cried tears of joy. We spent the last day of our trip at the beach, having dinner at some lovely restaurants, and chatting about our future. We both agreed that we wanted to stay together and make our marriage work. On our last night, John surprised me with something. He pulled a small box out of his pocket, and inside was a new wedding ring. He said he wanted us to start fresh with a new ring for a new start. I was so touched I cried. I didn't expect this. I thought about everything we'd been through, all the mistakes we'd made, but now we had a chance to start over. We had to face some pain along the way, but now we have a chance to start over. I love you, John. I love you too, Sarah. We put the past behind us and focused on the future. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Now John and I are closer than ever. We learned from our mistakes, and we became stronger because of them. Our marriage isn't perfect, but it's real. We trust each other. We talk to each other. We never keep secrets anymore. Michael is growing fast. He's so happy and he loves spending time with us. He doesn't remember much about Alex, and I'm so happy about that. I want him to grow up in a home full of love and honesty. Sometimes I think about the past and the mistakes we both made, but I don't let those thoughts stay for long. We have a new life now, a better life, and I'm so grateful for that. John and I still go to counseling sometimes just to keep things strong. I've learned that marriage is something you have to work on every day. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. Looking back, I realize how close we came to losing everything. Our marriage could have ended because of the secrets we kept, but instead, we found a way to fix it and move forward. I'm not proud of what I did with Alex, and I know John isn't proud of what he did with Lisa, but we learned from our mistakes and came out stronger on the other side, and we became stronger because of them. Life is full of challenges, and marriage is one of the biggest of all. But if you love someone, if you really love them, you can get through anything. John and I are proof of that now. I feel happy and at peace. Our home is full of love and laughter, and that's all I ever wanted. We're not perfect, but we're real, and that's what matters. If you enjoy the story, please like, subscribe, and share.